Hey friends! Today I'm going to be recommending some awesome horror and thriller films that you may have missed, some hidden gems. Hey friends! Welcome back to my channel, Tea Critiques, but you can call me Tia. I review books, I review movies, specifically horror and thriller films. So if you like either one of those things, please subscribe below so that you don't miss any of my future videos. Alright, so I have always been a fan of horror films ever since I was a little kid. I just loved getting scared. I don't know what it is, it's just something I love. And so in March, when everything shut down and we were in quarantine, my boyfriend and I binged a lot of television to pass the time and we watched a lot of movies. And I kid you not, we watched 3 to 4 horror films a week. So I have a long list of horror films and thriller films that I want to recommend to you guys. And today I'm going to be giving you 5 out of that list that I think that you guys will really enjoy. Some of these films are what I call hidden gems, films that maybe a lot of you haven't heard of. They're not big blockbuster films, but they're still worth a watch. Also, some of them might not be from 2020 or 2019. They might be a little bit older, but I only recently found out about them and they still really freaked me out, and so I'm going to recommend them to you guys. Also, I won't be using any visuals from the movies because I don't want to deal with any copyright issues. So I linked the trailers for the films below, so if one of the films catches your eye or sounds good, you could just watch the trailer below to get some visual from the film. So the first film I'm going to be recommending today is called Ready or Not, and it was released in 2019, so it's pretty recent. This movie stars Samira Weaving and Mark O'Brien. It was written by Ryan Murphy and directed by Matt Bettinelli-Oblin. So what is this movie about? Grace, who's played by Samira Weaving, is marrying her boyfriend of only 18 months, Alex, who is played by Mark O'Brien. She doesn't really know his family very well, and what she does know is that they're a very wealthy family because they own this sports goods / gaming enterprise. And so, although she doesn't know the family very well, they still get married on the grounds of their massive mansion. It is very clear early on that there's something off about this family, which I think is usually the case for rich white families in the movies and the TV shows. After all the wedding fun, she is told by Alex that his family has a very strange tradition in which on the night of the wedding, specifically midnight, exactly at midnight, the family has to sit down and play a game. The person who is a new addition to the family, which in this case would be Grace, has to pull a card, and whatever game is on that card, they must play. Innocent games such as chess and checkers, things like that. But of course, there's one unlucky card in the mix. Hide and seek. No one has pulled this card in 30 years, but of course, she pulls it. What is hide and seek? Well, obviously, she has to hide on the grounds of the mansion, and the family has to seek her out. But of course, there is a twist. They also have to capture and kill her. And the rules are they have to capture and kill her before sunrise. Of course, they don't tell Grace that. They just tell her that they're playing hide and seek, but the family knows that they actually are attempting to murder her. Now, the plot of the movie might sound a little ridiculous, but trust me, this movie is worth a watch. Why is this movie worth a watch? Well, it is extremely entertaining, and it is really fun to watch Grace fight for her life throughout the entire movie. And as the movie progresses, all of your questions are answered, such as what is up with this family and what is up with this tradition. I mean, what a way to be introduced into a family. So yes, this movie is very entertaining and it will have you at the edge of your seat throughout the entire thing. Is this movie scary? No, but it's not meant to be scary. It's a thriller movie and it is definitely full of thrills. It is full of adrenaline, suspense, murder, humor, supernatural elements, a strange family, and a wicked heroine. Everything about this movie is fantastic. The plot, the acting, and even the atmosphere. The mansion itself is full of antiques. It's dimly lit, so it's kind of dark and gloomy. And it's also maze-like, so it really adds to the, dark tones and chaos of the movie. There's also a lot of murder and a lot of blood, so just be aware of that. But all in all, it is a fantastic movie, and I definitely recommend that you watch this movie. It is just a ride from beginning to end. So go check out the trailer below if you want to see some visuals of the movie, and then go watch the movie and come back and tell me what you thought about it. The next movie I'm going to be recommending is called Sweetheart. It was released in 2019, so also another current movie. This movie stars Kiersey Clemons. It was written by Alex Heiner and friends, and it was directed by Justin Dillard. What is this movie about? So Jen, who is played by Clemons, is stranded on an island and essentially alone. The movie starts right in the madness of it. It starts with her washing up on shore, so it definitely wastes no time getting started. This is a survival movie, but it's not your typical kind of survival movie. Yes, she is stranded on an island, and you get to watch Jen learn to survive and gather essential needs such as warmth, food, and water, and that is already entertaining enough. But things get crazy when Jen discovers that the island is stalked by a murderous sea creature at night. Clemons is amazing in this movie. You feel her desperation, you feel her fear as she learns to survive on an island while also fighting for her life against this crazy sea creature. So yes, this is definitely a must-watch movie. Why is this movie worth a watch? Like I mentioned, this movie is extremely entertaining. Clemons gives a solid performance as she learns new tasks such as, fishing and starting a fire. And as she deals with the stress of being alone on an island, and then as she learns that she is not actually alone on this island, and as she fights this murderous and quite honestly terrifying sea creature. Is this movie scary? Yes, in my opinion, this movie is terrifying. Not only is it terrifying enough just watching someone trying to survive being stranded on an island, it is made even more terrifying by this murderous sea creature who is out for flesh and blood. And the sea creature itself is terrifying. I don't really want to describe what it looks like because I really want you guys to see for yourselves, but it is very grotesque and gross, and it's not something that I would want coming after me, that's for sure. This movie is truly fantastic from beginning to end. I had so much fun watching Jen try to survive the island and fight off this murderous sea creature. She's so smart and so clever, and like I said, Clemons gives a solid performance. I mean, it's basically just her for like 75% of the movie, and she still made the movie very entertaining. You are right in the middle of it with her, feeling her desperation, feeling her adrenaline, and all of her fighter instincts. So yes, like I said, this movie is entertaining, and I definitely recommend that you watch it. As I mentioned above, I linked the trailer below, so if you want to get some visuals of the movie, click the link, watch the trailer, and then go watch the movie and come back and tell me what you thought about it. The next movie on my list that I'm going to be recommending to you guys is called It Stains the Sands Red. This movie was released in 2016. Like I mentioned, I will be recommending some older movies that I only recently found out about, because if they're good, they're good. Doesn't matter when they came out. And this one is definitely a good film. This movie stars Brittany Allen. It was written by Stuart Ortiz and Colin Minihan, who also directed it. So what is this movie about? We are in the midst of yet another zombie apocalypse. So I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm not the biggest zombie fan. I feel like they're all pretty similar, and if you've seen one zombie movie, you might have seen them all. But in my opinion, this movie was pleasantly surprising, and it might be one of my favorite zombie apocalypse movie that I've ever seen. So Molly and her boyfriend are on their way to a plane because her boyfriend's friend has a plane and they're going to take it out of the country. But of course, on the way there, their car breaks down in the desert, and there is this one lone zombie that is basically terrorizing them. This movie is pretty much entirely Molly getting stalked by this one lone single zombie. Of course, zombies are really slow, but They never give up, and so no matter how far she travels, he always catches up with her. She can't get rid of it, and as they journey through the desert together, their relationship, yes, I said relationship, starts to change, and Molly also starts to change herself. This is a must-watch movie. Even if you are like me and you don't really like zombie movies, I definitely recommend this movie. Why should you watch this movie? Well, like I mentioned, it is widely entertaining. Not only is she trying to survive the desert, she's also trying to outrun this zombie who's very persistent and doesn't give up. They also form some strange relationship that grows like between them, and Molly, who's kind of a mess of a person, starts to change and her perspective changes with her. Not her perspective, sorry. Well, I guess her perspective, but more so her priorities change. This movie is full of gore and blood and murder and tension, but it's also surprisingly emotional, love being one of the strongest emotions that stand out, especially near the end. Also, this is yet another wicked heroine movie. I swear I didn't purposely choose all of these female-led, action-packed movies on purpose, but I'm glad I did. Brittany Allen has been in a few things that I've really enjoyed recently, so she proves to be a very versatile actress, and she gave a really solid performance throughout this movie. Is it scary? Yes. I mean, are zombies scary? If not, then they're gory and bloody and creepy, so if you're not scared throughout, you'll definitely still feel creeped out while watching it, especially with all the blood and murder. I really liked this entire movie. It was not a cliche in my opinion. There are plenty of zombie movies in the world, but this one just really stood out to me. It's a different take on the genre, and I really enjoyed it. I loved Alan's performance in this movie, but I also really appreciated Juan Riedinger's performance. He's the one who plays the zombie. It is surprisingly convincing and layered, so he also did a really solid job of playing a zombie throughout the entire movie. This movie is also surprisingly funny, so you will also be laughing watching this movie, and that's always a plus. So yes, I definitely recommend this movie. You can watch the trailer below if you want to see some visuals, then go check out the movie, come back and tell me what you thought about it. Let's talk zombies. The next movie I'm going to be recommending is called Under the Shadow. It was released in 2016. This movie stars Narges Rinshidi and Avin Menchetti and is written by Babek Envari. Also, unless you speak Persian, you will be needing some subtitles while watching this movie because the language is Persian and it is set in Tehran of Iran. What is this movie about? This movie is set in the 1980s during the war between Iran and Iraq. It is located in Tehran of Iran, and it follows one particular family. The husband, who is played by Bobby Naderi, is a doctor, and he is sent to go provide his services in the war. His wife, Shadeh, who is played by Rashidi, refuses to go stay at her in-laws' house, as her husband has suggested, and instead she stays in her apartment complex with her daughter Dorsa. At the beginning of the movie, we experience what it was like living during the war and how it has impacted innocent bystanders, this community, and this family. Shadeh is clearly mentally overwhelmed, but she still refuses to leave and go and stay with her in-laws, who are in a safer part of the country. At one point of the movie, the apartment complex is hit by a missile. It actually hits the apartment above Shadeh and her daughters. It doesn't destroy the building, it just kind of wrecks that one apartment. And after that missile hits, they start to experience strange happenings in their apartment, and very soon after that, Shadeh suspects that her apartment is haunted and that something is coming after her daughter. Y'all know I love a good ghost story, I love a good haunting story, and this one definitely did not disappoint. Why should you watch it? Well, first of all, it is very unique in its premise and different than most, ghost haunting stories. I've never watched a ghost story located in Iran in the middle of the war, and so already I'm captured by the unique premise of the movie. It's also super entertaining. You're not only experiencing, this strange entity that's coming after the family, you're also experiencing the threat of the war, and so not only is she not safe outside her house, she is also not safe inside her apartment. So yeah, this movie is full of fear and tension that builds and builds and builds. This movie is about a mother who is desperately struggling to keep her daughter safe from this entity, but also from the war that rages outside their doors. And this task becomes increasingly hard to do, especially after her neighbors start fleeing and it becomes more isolating and claustrophobic, and the entity becomes more aggressive and persistent throughout the film. Is this movie scary? Yes, this movie definitely scared the bejesus out of me. Like I said, the entity becomes more sinister and vigilant and threatening as the movie progresses, and there were definitely many scenes in which I was scared. It is more of a slow burn kind of movie, but there's still a lot of buildup and suspense and some genuine scares throughout the movie. I really enjoyed the performances as well. Both Rashidi and Avin Manshadi, who plays Dorsa the daughter, give such genuine portrayals of mother and daughter who are slowly losing it as they are dealing with the war and this entity. I mean, there's this one scene in the movie where they're physically like attacking one another, and it's just so authentic and heart-wrenching, and I just thought that they did a really fantastic job of playing mother and daughter. So yes, if you're looking for a solid haunting ghost story, I definitely recommend this film. It's different, it's unique, and it's scary. So yes, go check out the trailer below. If you want some visuals of the movie, go watch this movie and come back and tell me if it scared you. The last movie I'm going to be recommending is called The Wretched, and that movie was released in 2020, so it's actually super recent. This movie is probably not as much as a hidden gem as I think it is. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of it and have watched it, but I only found out about this movie through doing, Google researching. So if I haven't heard about it, there might be some other people who haven't, and I really love this movie, so I have to put it on my list. This movie stars Zara Mahler and John Paul Howard and is written by brothers, I guess, Brett Pierce and Drew T. Pierce. So what is this movie about? Well, there have been plenty of movies and TV shows recently where it's basically about teenagers who are up against a supernatural foe or a murderous neighbor. To name a few over the years, Fright Night, Summer of '84, and of course Stranger Things. But this one is a little different because in this case, this young teenage boy is fighting basically a witch. The teenage boy in this movie is named Ben, played by Howard, and he soon suspects that his neighbor, Abby, who was played by Mahler, is being possessed by a witch. Now, witch movies don't generally interest me or scare me. Don't get me started on the movie called The Witch, because that movie was such a major disappointment to me. So in general, witch movies fall into this cliche of like this old, naked, haggard woman with long stringy hair running through the forest, just dancing and gallivanting. But not this witch. I mean, this witch still does live in the forest. I don't know what it is with witches in forests. That's just a thing. But she's a lot more terrifying than the witches that you usually see portrayed in movies. This witch is far more scarier than any witch I've ever seen portrayed on television or movies, and she actually takes it a step further and possesses people to get what she wants, which is children, of course, and it is terrifying, like utterly, disgustingly terrifying. And so that answers the question, is this movie scary? Yes, this movie is very, very scary and terrifying. The witch herself is grotesque and sickly looking and just gross. But even when the witch is possessing someone else, it still creeps me out. The witch spends majority of the movie possessing the neighbor Abby, and Zara Mahler, who plays Abby, does such a solid performance of, at one point in the film, playing a caring and daring mother, and then for the rest of the film, playing this menacing, creepy character who's possessed and trying to play the part. So she gives a solid performance and genuinely creeped me out throughout the movie. This movie is full of suspense and adrenaline and just a general atmosphere of creepiness and of course all of the genuine scares. So I definitely recommend this movie, and I think that out of all of the movies, this is probably the one that scared me the most from all the movies that I recommended today. So watch the trailer below if you want to get some visuals, and then watch the movie and come back and tell me if you liked it, if it scared you, if this is the best portrayal of a witch you've ever seen on screen as well. Alright friends, that's it for today's video, but I will be making many more just like it. Like I said, I have a very long list of horror and thriller films that I want to recommend to you guys, so please subscribe below so you don't miss any of my future videos. Also, please comment below if you've watched these movies and you have any thoughts you want to share, or if you have any other horror thriller films that you want to recommend to me. Until next time, bye friends!